Welcome to Lesson 6 in Unit 6, Mastering Mimicry. In this lesson, students will work to answer the question, what plant parts can we use as inspiration for our campsite? In this lesson, students review their learning of plant parts to engage in the engineering design cycle. They brainstorm a possible campsite solution inspired by nature. Students figure out that technology can be inspired by plants and animals to help solve problems. Plant parts can be used as inspiration to design a more stable campsite. Some plant parts might work better than others. Students make connections to the storyline by applying their understanding of the strength of adult plants and the function of plant parts to think about their campsite solution. There are several opportunities for ELA cross-curricular connections throughout the lesson. You can look for specific standard connections in the Unit 6 Teacher Guide. This lesson will take approximately 5 days to complete. Lesson 6 is the first lesson in Section 2. In the Engage portion, you'll introduce the anchoring problem to students. Children at a campsite need to be protected from weather and animals. You'll display the engineering design cycle and have students refer to their engineering design cycle student journal page. You'll tell students that they've learned so much about how plants use their parts to survive and how their parts can help us solve problems. They have a new problem to start thinking about. You'll display videos of animals and bad weather at a campsite. You'll ask students what they notice and wonder about the campsites and what problems they notice with the campsites. You'll revisit the driving question board and add new questions and highlight any others connected to the learning goals of this lesson by calling attention to the questions and noticings that identify the problem or how to solve the problem using plant parts. For the Explore portion, you'll display an image of a campsite. You'll ask students what part of the campsite might need extra protection and how they can keep tents from blowing over in the wind. You'll draw a tent stake on the board and invite students to turn and talk about the part of a plant that a tent stake reminds them of. You'll then put students in engineering teams of 4 and let them know they will work in these teams to develop a biomimicry solution for the campsite. You'll need to review the biomimicry rubric student journal page with students so they understand the criteria their solution must meet. You'll set up the campsite materials investigation. Students will examine several materials and manipulate them to act as different components of campsites. While investigating, they'll compare the materials to plant parts. Pause this video to review the list of materials needed for the activity and the items you can find in your kit. Students will use their materials investigation sheet in their campsite materials investigation student journal page to record their ideas. In the Explain portion of the lesson, students will engage in a class discussion to synthesize the information they gathered on human inventions and biomimicry. Use the provided questions to guide your discussion around the question, what plant parts could we use as inspiration for our campsite? The goal of this class discussion is to analyze the materials to identify how they can be used. You will use the discussion to create the Lesson 6 summary chart. From the discussion, students should understand that the roots would be helpful in the campsite because they help anchor objects, and leaves might be helpful because they can be waterproof or used as a cover. For the Elaborate portion, you'll have students use their observations as evidence to turn and talk to answer questions about each tent material and how it could be used for their campsites. For the Evaluate portion, you'll have students work individually to design a possible solution inspired by plant parts in their campsite biomimicry solutions ideas student journal page. To support student sense-making across the unit, orient them back to the driving question board. Ask, what did we learn about what plant parts we could use as inspiration for our campsite? What questions do we still have? By the end of this lesson, students will have made connections between plant parts and human inventions, and investigated human technology inventions inspired by plants. In Lesson 7, students engage as they design and test their own solutions inspired by plants. For more information about this unit, visit myscipartners.com.